So where does the NHRA go from here? As you likely know, last week the NHRA damn near broke the internet when they put out an announcement that, well, actually, let me rephrase that. When a screenshot of an email from the NHRA to their professional series racers was leaked on social media. This email informed racers, let's just use Top Fuel as an example, that their purse would be reduced from $35,000 to win to $15,000 to win for the remainder of 2020. This, for those that don't know, Top Fuel, just again as an example, started the season racing for $50,000 to win. We could probably have a conversation on some other day about how $50,000 isn't enough, but $15,000 was a real shock to the racing community. It did a lot of things. It got fans up on the tire. It got racers up on the tire. It, in my opinion, served to make the sport of drag racing look small. Again, maybe a conversation for another day, but the question really that begs to be answered right now is, where does the NHRA go from here? What happens after this? So I think first and foremost, this type of communication, it really speaks to a lack of understanding of optics, how things look, how to deliver news. Very rarely is it the news that gets people spun out, it's the fashion in which it's delivered. And I think that that's something that as a whole, you can tell right now that the NHRA is massively understaffed in their communications department. Because I don't think there's ever a scenario where the best idea is to send out an email in mass delivering really bad, I would say, controversial news like this. This seems like it could have been handled better, but no use crying over spilled milk. So I think the question that I want answered is, where do we go from here? What happens next? And I think first and foremost, this is something that I'm hearing a lot, is racers need to see an end date. I think it needs to be made painfully clear that this is the payout schedule, this is the purse for the remainder of 2020, that it will not extend into 2021. That has to be made absolutely clear, that as soon as this season ends, we will regroup and embark. Maybe it's a 3-step plan. By XYZ date, we will return to 100% of the pre-COVID purse. I think everybody in our industry understands that times are tough right now, that money's hard to come by, sponsorship dollars are hard to come by. A lot of these venues are limited capacity-wise, so ticket sales are in the dumpster. It's a tough time, and I think racers would be largely understanding, but I do think of a pay cut, no question, but I think an end date is going to be really, really, really important. Next up, I have it on good authority that the NHRA executives, the NHRA executive team has taken a really serious haircut in terms of their pay. I think that's something that needs to be made public. I've heard from 25 to 40% across the board for executive salaries. And if that's the case, I mean, if you're gonna make it known this really bad news, you're gonna send out an email and let the world know that you're cutting the purses massively, wouldn't you think that it makes sense to send out an email to your racers, to your members? This is a nonprofit membership organization, right? Send out a notice to everybody that the executive team's taken this big pay cut. Maybe there's a fear that it would just highlight some excessive spending in that department. I don't know. But I do think it's a positive message that needs to be told. Kudos to the NHRA if that is in case the truth, if that's a real thing, which I believe it is. I believe the NHRA is led by a bunch of good guys. So by and large, if they've taken a massive pay cut, boy, oh boy, wouldn't you make the whole world aware of this? I want to see a press release like Monday. Lastly, I really think what this brings light to me, every article I've read, every interview I've read, every off-the-record conversation that I've had with racers, all of this from the announcement, from the meme that it inspired about, comparing NHRA executive salaries to NHRA professional category prize money, what all of this underscores is a massive communication breakdown. And I'm not even gonna say a breakdown, a massive disconnect between NHRA racers and the NHRA brass that has to be addressed. We have allowed this us versus them thing to fester up and boil over. And in my opinion, nothing good happens until we get everybody swim in the same direction. And I don't know if that's a summit that happens in California this fall or this winter. Let's get everybody together, get all the cards on the table, and see where we stand, how we can help one another, and how we can all work together to get to where we want the sport to go. And I think that's what I take away from this whole situation. Every post that's made on social media, they can try to talk about anything else. They can talk about heroes and legends, upcoming events, breaking news, anything. And the conversation all goes back to a bunch of upset racers at the brass and all this disconnect. And I really think that this is something that before the sport of drag racing can move forward, we've got to find a way to work together. That's the takeaway. That's what all of us need to learn from what's happened in the last 2 weeks or 10 days, is that there's a big communication gap between the NHRA and their professional series racers, and it's got to be addressed sooner rather than later.